Well, I will try to introduce the people. I think in some way it could be better. I will say something, and I think it's better if you say more about, because all the information that I have is the profiles information, and some of you have a lot of works in all their career, so I think it's better to have a whole concept of your work. Yeah, Agnes Garthin is from Germany. We were talking before that it's important to know how is the situation in each country, but she said, no, I don't have a real idea of how is the situation in Germany, because she works in a whole idea of Europe and live music in Europe, yeah? So she will have more, I don't know, more global concepts or more global ideas about how works the live music, yeah? She have a lot of studies on politics and a lot of things. She's working right now, I have all my notes, in the policy advisor of European Music Council. So I think it's one of the, yeah, well, I told you that I have problems with my English, so I will change the subjects like this, yeah? Okay, next we go to one of the two guys from the Netherlands. Yeah, it's Frank. Frank, he starts like a bad guy in metal bands and punk bands or all these things, but after some years, I think he starts to book bands, to work with different companies. He runs a venue. I don't know about the, well, something like this, no?
Yeah, I used to be a promoter in a venue.
You buy it. Okay. So, well, I'm sorry. I'm losing my time changing subjects or something like this, but I start to say that you could introduce you a little more, and I change it. Yeah, I think it will be better.
Okay. I think it's more interesting to kind of understand what the European Music Council is rather than what I have done. The European Music Council is a network organization, which means we have 75 member organizations in 29 countries in Europe. The member organizations are national music councils and then other European international organizations working in different fields of music. One of our members, for example, is Live DMA, which is a European network for venues and festivals, but also Europe Jazz Network, and then several members from the education side of the sector. So we're not only focused on live music or anything. It's really broad music network, and we do policy advocacy work, which means we talk to politicians. This is a main part of our work, but also we organize conferences, workshops, and have for our members some opportunities to do some exchanges with each other, spend some time in the office of another organization, for example, to really provide some opportunities for European exchange.
And only one question to have a whole idea. When you work with organizations on different countries, you have something like big meetings with different, or do you speak with any of them separately or something like this?
It's really mainly trying to get as many together as possible. So we have we organize our annual conference, the European Forum on Music, where we address a different topic each year, and that's where most of our members attend, but it's also open to anyone else who is interested, and but it's really about trying to get everybody from Europe together. And when we say Europe, and I think that's also a very important point, we don't just mean European Union, but Europe in a geographical sense. We also have members in Armenia, in Ukraine, in Israel, so it's a really broad sense of Europe.
So interesting to know this, yeah. Okay, we talk again about Frank. I think, you were saying that you are working in booking for only one big venue right now?
Well, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, okay. Now you have your own booking company.
I think I wrote it down in my little biography, but I'm going to say it really quick. I have like 15 years, well, no, longer, almost 20 years in music industry behind me. I started as a musician in punk bands and metal bands, all that kind of stuff. Then I started DIY promoting shows. Then I moved to a big venue, but that was like in 2005. And after that, I founded a festival and did that for 7 years. And then that out of that, I started my own booking agency and management agency. And that ended last year, actually. And last year, I kind of made the switch from working in the music industry more towards working on the sector as a whole. So I'm working a bit in the intersection of the music industry and policy making and the political side of things. So that's like my career in 1 minute. But I've seen a lot of different angles from the music industry.
Okay.
And a lot of life as
But
well.
you work all around Europe.
Yeah, I did quite a bit of Europe, mainly in the Benelux, but also some European stuff.
Okay. So I think Bas is from the Netherlands too. He's booking right now. I think in your profile you say that you are something like the worldwide booking agent of Demi Curado, for example. Mm-hmm. You book with a lot. Yeah, thanks a lot. With a lot of bands that could be from Americana, from folk, all around. Yeah, I think you are working directly with all the festivals in Europe, I think.
Yes.
Yeah? So your experience could be from the little thing to the big one with all the different countries, yeah?
Sounds good. Yeah, I can add something. I've been working as an agent and a promoter for about 20 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see a lot of developments in the industry. And I work with as an agent. I work with artists like Tallest Man on Earth, Damien Jurado, Preoccupations, and in the Netherlands, in my own country, I promote shows for other agents like Bon Iver, the XX, stuff like that. But also very small new artists. So it's indeed from smaller to bigger artists, and I also 2 years ago I started as a manager. That was kind of like an accident happening. One of my artists that I've been booking said, "Oh, I really need a manager, and I don't know what to do." And I said, "Well, maybe I can help you out for a few weeks or a few months." And then he said, "No, you're hired." And I said, "Oh shit!" And so I try to do that as well. So it's a little bit of a mix of different things that I do.
Who do you manage?
Damien Jurado.
Ah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, I have something like, I have a very stupid question, but I need to know how to pronounce for real his name, because he's from Slovenia and it's something like Andras Kadger. Yeah, well, my accent is difficult, so it's more difficult to translate to say your name. And I think you are other example of different things, because you start. I'm not sure how you start, but you work as in labels. You are journalist. You are working in Men Ljubljana Slovenia Association right now, so you could explain a little more to our audience.
Sure. So when I started, as a student, you try to do everything. So I was a music journalist. I was running a small indie label. I tried to book tours for bands. I went on a few tours. But later we started to do the MEN Festival, which is a 3-day showcase festival in Ljubljana.
Okay, you say association, sorry. The festival.
Sorry? Yeah, it's a festival, yeah.
It's
And a conference. So it's pretty similar to Monkey Week. We have around 70 acts, and next year it's going to be the 5th edition in the end of January, so you're all welcome.
Well, we were talking a little before, and I know that the most important thing is to talk about the problems, about the live music scene or the live music circuit all around Europe. But I decided to start with the positive things. And for example, we always say that, as journalists, we always say in our magazine that we are in a very good moment because we have a lot of tours around Spain. We have a lot of festivals that runs really good, yeah? We know all the problems, and we will talk later, but I think the difference between now and something like 15 years ago, it's so important. So if someone from, I don't know, from the Netherlands or Slovenia asks me, oh, how is the Spanish situation of live music? I will say, it's really good, and after we will talk about the problems. So right now, we don't have a whole idea. Catherine will have more a whole idea, but I know perfectly how it runs in Spain, so I think it's important to know which are the problems in it. You are understanding me because sorry. Vale. Well, I think it's interesting to know how is the situation in any of the countries and see after this if we have real common problems or not, yeah? Someone want to start?
Do you mean the specific problems
Yeah,
per
no,
country?
not the problem, sorry.
Or the specific
I was a little
situation
lost.
in
Yeah,
each
the
country?
specific-
Okay. Okay.
Now in a positive point of view, the good things that
Do you
about
want to say
the
something
life.
about the Dutch situation, Frank? Or, yeah?
Well, if I have to say something really positive about the Dutch current situation, I think there is a lot of live music happening at the moment. There is obviously a shift going on from venues towards festivals, but on the other hand, that also enables a lot of people to come into contact with live music. And I think in the end, that's what we're all after, entertaining, inspiring, and educating people with our music. And so I think that's a really good thing. And next to that, I see music really as a sort of a means to bring people from different angles and backgrounds together. And you see a lot happening with festivals, but also club nights that have become way more mixed in the genres that are presented. You know, you see a lot of Arabic music or Southern American music mixed with European dance music, and a lot of mixed audiences as well. And I think that's a really positive development, especially during this time of polarization in our political climate, at least. So music, in a way, is really connecting people, really literally, and there's a lot of people, organizers that also really work hard on that. So that's a good thing.
Have you, Baz, have you the same point of view about the?
No, I think that's a really good point that Frank made about the mix of everything and how different styles of music are influencing. And I think that really has a lot to do with how open the world is and the internet is. So people get way more influences in an easy way. If you're an artist, I think you see that in the Netherlands a lot. People get a lot of influences and they mix it up and they make it their own thing. That's probably something you can see in other countries as well. But I think that's a really positive thing. And so internet makes it for a new artist much easier to find great music. And like when I was a musician a long time ago, I was trying to find things. I had to find the record, and then you're studying the record. But now you have so much influence; it's even wider than the radio. You can go wherever you want, and you can dig deeper and deeper. I think that's a really beautiful thing. Yeah.
Is the same in Slovenia?
Not really.
Really? Okay.
Well, Slovenia is a really small country, so I wouldn't say there's like a lot of influences that would come. Well, there are influences, of course, from everywhere in the world, but I think the main points are that the scene is really small, so everyone knows each other, which is really good in a sense if you want to work with someone, if you want to ask questions. And I think another positive thing is that the younger generation of bands is really interested to go outside. So they are thinking about this from the beginning, not after like 3 releases in Slovenia when they're already as old as me and have to think about other stuff in life too.
I think it's the same here, I think in some way. And Kathin, you have the whole point of view, so do you think we are in the... You have this point of view about the different countries?
No, I think there. I think I can definitely share that, and what maybe reflects that to start with something positive that's happening on a, if you look at it from a European level, is that there is also from all the politicians more recognition about the importance and influence of live music on not only from an economic perspective but also from a social and cultural perspective. And one of the most recent developments, for example, is that all the 23 music export offices from all over Europe, they're now joined together in a common network and they're coordinating more with each other. And I think that's also a positive step towards more exchanges on a European level in live music, and just a recognition of the importance of live music and the popularity it has, despite maybe some of the fears that with well, you can just stream everything now on the internet. Why would you go out and seek out new music that way if you can just sit at home and listen to it? But it's exactly the opposite is happening, and I think that's a really positive sign. Yeah.
I think when we talk about, for example, venues, not festivals, we will talk about festivals later, we always think that countries as Germany and UK, they have something like a very good point of view about the clubs, for example. They try to work with them to have something like an image of their real cultural point, centers, yeah? No? Well...
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe there is. I think there is a strong lobby. If what I know from the German situation is that they're really pushing towards a more recognition also for their cultural value that they contribute, especially the smaller venues, the importance for the community, and all of that. And I think it's a slow process, and in some places it's working really well, and in others it's not at all. So I think it's really looking at, depending on where you are in Germany or in other countries, in France, it's a very different situation. Yeah. In some cities it's working quite well, in others it isn't. But I think there's some really good ideas from different venues on how you can address that situation, how it helps, and what you can do. There is from Live DMA, the network I was mentioning earlier of venues and festivals. They organize a European-wide open club day where they really invite the community not only to come and listen to music, but also really look at what else is the venue doing for the community and their importance, especially, and also shown that to the politicians. This is not only making noise, but this is a really important cultural value here.
Yeah, well, I will talk a little about the situation in Spain. I know more the situation of Madrid and Barcelona, that are the big cities, but we have really a big confrontation between the cultural sector and the politicians about the venues. I think in Barcelona, for example, it was something like the small venues, the medium venues are not good for the city. They always want the places outside. I think the thing starts to change when the big festivals like Sonar Festival or Primavera Sound that they run a venue too, they will start to be really big and bigger. So the politicians start to think that, well, we must do something, we must work with them. But until that moment, the small venues and the medium venues were really the enemies of the culture, more than adding things there. Right now we have small venues like Sidecar in Barcelona that have something like 30 years of career, that they start to be recognized in the last, I don't know, the last 7 years or last six years, because in the past they were something like, they have a lot of people drank outside, that was real, but yeah, a lot of noise, all these things. And right now we have something like a new generation of politicians that start to think that, yeah, cultural importance of these places are...
May I respond to that?
Huh?
May I respond to that?
Yeah.
It's funny because about 10 or 12 years ago, I think there was a big movement in the Netherlands from politicians embracing venues all of a sudden and starting to really see them as a prestige thing. Yeah. And they start to build new venues in the cities, like to show off to each other, like, hey, see, we have a new pop music venue and we do really well. We think culture is really important, and they started building these really big, new, modern music venues. Yeah. But they also forgot. But then they forgot to include like budgets for the programming, for example, or the venues became insanely expensive to book. So you could never have a competing, offer to your bands. So, the fees were really low, and a lot of these venues actually went bankrupt or came in debt, and a lot of money had to be put like structurally against them. And then all of a sudden the whole how do you call it, the whole attitude towards these venues started to change again in a negative way. So it was sort of from embracing, then back to like, okay, this costs a lot of money, it's not good.
Oh,
so
yeah. Well,
watch out.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was something like this some years ago here in Spain. All the small cities start to have something like big venues that nobody could play there. So a lot of them they work for organizations that have something like big meetings or something like this, because not real shows, yeah. But I was talking more about the venues like indie, like rock, like pop, like electronics, more in relationship with Monkey Week, for example.
Yeah, but a lot of these venues disappeared in Dutch cities because of the new ambitions of like the city government, and they say like, let's put every venue that we have in the city in one building, and then we have this new palace of music. But then, you know, they took out like the sort of the factors that really binded the music ecosystem in the city, and that's something that a lot of people, I think, also regret nowadays.
Yeah. Well. I think in relationship with this, the problems in Spain was for a little time, well, these venues, but it was something like a problem not only about music, it was, we have a lot of bridges that don't work, airports that don't work, something like this. But I think the big problem between politicians and venues in the past was, at some point, the politicians start to think about, we must do a lot of free shows for people, we could promote the culture on the streets, well, not in all of Spain, but in the north or in Andalusia, you could do it because the weather is better. And it was a big problem because the fees of the artists start to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and the small venues sometimes cannot pay these fees because another village in the free shows on the street, yeah, cool. I'm sorry if I...
No, I heard about this. I think it might be, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but a particular situation in Spain where the municipality, so the city decides to become a festival organizer themselves.
Yeah.
And so they are suddenly a competition for the venues in the city, and because they have the capacity to organize these events for free and book certain artists, and then by that slowly destroying or killing the venues that have been there for a long time. And I don't know if that is a similar situation in other countries. I don't think so. The way I heard about it is this very particular situation like that in Spain. And I think in a lot of other European countries you have the typical vicious cycle that a venue that's more maybe in an old industrial area and really starts building up that area by putting up music there, getting the people out there, and then you have the younger people that move there, and then the classic cycle of gentrification happens. And then it makes a lot more money to sell then those buildings as apartment, or reuse them as apartment buildings or office buildings, and it doesn't make noise anymore. And I think that's one of the typical challenges that a lot of that's faced all over Europe. And I think that's more of a challenge in the question of how do you deal with that, because you're a victim of your own success suddenly. I don't have the answer to that, unfortunately, but I think that's something that's European-wide more of an issue, really. Yeah.
We have another thing in relationship with the politicians, that is, in Spain, all the local or regional governments have different points of view about music. So the situation from Andalusia to Catalonia is so different to the Galicia or Basque Country. And I want to know if in your countries, the whole relationship with the politics are something like a global country thing, or different situations all around?
I think the big difference with the Netherlands is that it's a really small country, so you don't have the regional difference much, but you have a big difference between the big cities and the rest. and there you can see that maybe in the smaller areas there's a bit more of a isolated local scene, but also maybe maybe less focus on subsidies for the culture. It's a bit more of a struggle. But I think the differences in Spain are much bigger. I remember I used to book a lot of tours in Spain that there was, in Andalusia, there was more of a circuit of sponsored cultural events, and you could do great tours in amazing classical venues, and that disappeared for a few years. And I thought it was a really sad thing, because you could no longer bring some of your American artists to the south. And maybe it's getting better again now, but yeah, there was a period you could totally see the difference between the rise of Barcelona with Primavera and Madrid and the clubs there and the festivals there, and then the south was really hit hard by the economy, and you could see with the sponsorship from the government falling away that suddenly the south was deprived of certain touring music. And I hope it's getting better now, but it's still a big difference. Yeah.
Slovenia?
Well, again, Slovenia is even a smaller country, so everything is really centralized on Ljubljana, the capital, which happens to be in the middle of the country. So, like, most of the foreign shows, most of the tours happen in Ljubljana, and the municipality in Ljubljana is really connected, well, really investing in like different aspects of the music scene, but on the other side, they are forgetting on the venues that were there before. So sometimes it's really hard to like level these things up, but I hope in the future this will bring something positive. But everything outside Ljubljana has a problem of there is infrastructure in the sense of a lot of venues for such a small country. But these venues usually don't, or have just a little audience, and don't have the money to invest in promoting bands. And most of the shows happen on Saturday when the people are actually coming from Ljubljana, where they study or work, to home.
Yeah. Talking about small venues, I think I'm always talking about the Spanish situation, so I think it's good to have your different point of view. Yeah, I think the venues, small venues and medium venues, starts to be taken seriously in Spain when they start to have something like associations. Yeah, for example, in Catalonia, the whole Catalonia have a SAC that is something like all the venues are there, because it's the only way to have something like a strong force to fight the bad points of view of the government. Yeah, I think it's the same all around Europe, or not, or before the associations, the venues works together. It's.
I think in the Netherlands, venues have been working together for quite some time. You know, there's several organizations for it, and they're also united on a European level. But I think they don't only unite because of fighting against stuff. They also unite to fight for stuff. You know, they see opportunities, and they can reap them better if you collaborate, and that's a really good thing. And despite the density of venues in the Netherlands is really high, there's a lot of venues in the Netherlands. But I think it's a good thing that despite the competition, they still work together pretty well.
Something or not? Okay. Yeah. Talking about this, for example, I think we are really sure that we have something like common points that are in relationship with the bad things of the relationship between small venues or medium venues. So we start to talk about which one are the problems as bookers, for example. When you have an artist and you must fight, put in something like a balance, festivals, small venues, the money that they could have, the dates, all this. I think we could start to talk about this if you think it's interesting. I know that you want to say something because you work with all the countries and with different kind of artists, so we could start like this. I'm sorry, only a little thing. If any of you want to do any question when we are talking, in order to change if we are talking about one thing that is interesting for you, we could, yeah? I think it's
sure.
okay? It was an unexpected break, so they don't have the microphone.
Mike's coming.
I think the thing what you said before about gentrification in the cities, you know, because we are coming from Austria. In Austria, in Linz is a small steel town, steelworking town, and we have lots of dancing scene, electronic music scene, industrial, and it's the thing what you said, because if you are an organizer who is not working with the city or making private things, you know, there are lots of locations, old locations, which are interesting also for the free scene to produce, to make happenings, to make things like this. But the city, all this old structure, what can be used for the free scene in music, dance, theater, performance, anything, is racing down. They're destroying the things. They're building new high houses, and the free space in the mind and also the free space to work will be destroyed in case of this, to get money for gentrification. And I think this is mainly in Europe. Generally also a thing that the structure, the free space to experiment, to looking for developing some free ideas will be destroyed, because everywhere the economic thought is the main thing, you know, and the free space, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I actually thought a little bit about this, and I have a theory that I want to throw at you.
What you have? What?
I thought about this as well,
Yeah.
and you see it a lot because there's, you know, a big movement towards the cities going on, right? And the cities used to be the place where this room for experiment was, and this room to develop stuff. So I think because the competition for room in the cities is really high, right? You need place for buildings. Everybody wants a house in the city. It will inevitably have a counter movement towards the rural areas, I think. I think there's like small towns in the Netherlands, for example, all the way up north, that start to depopulate now. There's going to be room there. I think there's going to be smart people that are going to probably buy a farm together or something and start a studio over there.
Yeah,
At least that's what I would do.
Yeah.
But, maybe don't see it happen yet, but I hear it around me a lot. People thinking about it. Also, theater makers, for example, they deal with the same issues. They don't have room anymore, and they're like, okay, maybe we should start a collective and buy a farm, turn a stable into a practice room, and do it like that. So, who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
Me neither, but let's discuss in a couple of years, because then we might...
But this is the thought, you know what I mean? Because everywhere, when you... now culture is a label. Culture is a label in the cities, like in Linz also, you can earn money with it, yeah? But the abstract thing is that the first thing where the government want to save money, that they don't give money to the culture, because this is the first thing where they think they can save money to put away from the culture and invest in some things like this. Yeah.
Any of you have other? Yeah? Vale. Okay, so thanks a lot for your question and commentaries. Well, we could start with the problems. I have something like a list of problems that people in general think that the first one is in relationship with festivals and venues, okay? Here, for example, I think very common that you could listen is festivals are fucking the live circuit of shows all around the country. So we could start with this.
Yeah, that's a big thing to say, and it's also opening doors for a lot of discussion. You could say like, oh, it's great, there's so many festivals, everybody gets the chance to see great live music because of the festivals, and that's true, that's part of the thing. But it also brings a problem that all the festivals pay really well. That sounds strange, but for the artists it's important to get money, because they make much less money with recordings and albums, so they have to make money touring. So the festivals are gaining more and more power to be the island of publicity for the bands and make some money. And they demand, like, to say maybe half a year in advance, if you want to play my festival, you cannot play my country. You cannot compete against my festival performance or your festival performance at my festival. And that's becoming a really big problem. It is already a problem. I see it a lot that sometimes a band plays Primavera, which is a fantastic festival. It's too bad David is not here.
I think it's better that you talk bad about right now because David is not here. So you could,
no, but
you could
it's a fantastic festival, and it's it opened a lot of doors for bands, and it's a great showcase for quality music. But sometimes they demand a band not to play Spain and before the festival or after the festival or both. And that would make it impossible for somebody living in Sevilla or in Madrid or in Bilbao to see a band because it's playing a festival in Barcelona, and the artist could not play a small club in Bilbao. And I think that's a big problem. And another thing related to this is that the festivals are announcing their lineups sooner and sooner. So Primavera is going to announce, for example, their lineup early December is the feeling, and then it's, you know, everybody knows that's what the new live season is going to be. So it puts like basically the pressure on all the artists to make sure everything is ready to be on that festival. And if you miss the festival, then you have a serious problem for the start of the season. And you see it with all the festivals. Everything is so much more pushed forward. So everybody announces the whole lineup earlier. That it's harder. Like if you're an artist, you make a new record and you think it's really great, but you're 3 months before the festival. There's no way you can play the festival. They have spent all their money on the big names. They have closed their lineup and publicity. There's no way. So you have to wait for the whole year to do that. And I think, looking at my past 20 years in the business, that is a really big change. Like when I started out, you could easily get a band on a festival 3 months, maybe even 2 months before the festival, because they would always leave a few spots open for something really cool that was new. And that's, sadly to say, is really gone. And that has also an influence on the whole of Europe in where do the tours go, what makes it affordable for an artist to come to tour or not. Yeah.
I think you, in only 3 minutes, you explain all the bad things that I have on my list. So I think it's
sorry.
Yeah, no. I think it's a good thing because we could go to each one of them. Yeah. Well, for example, you talk about the festivals and how all the bands want to play there. Yeah. I think it's a big problem right now in Spain. Some smaller agents or promoters have this problem. The bands, in the first moment, they want to play at the festivals. And they wait and wait and wait until the festival say yes or not. Yeah? So sometimes the promoters have not enough time or enough importance to run a real live circuit of a band around Spain. So, I think it's one of the big problems. Is the same there? Or we know that Slovenia is something like a small country. But you have something.
Yeah, everything gets different. Yeah, because we actually profit from these festivals in the summertime because Slovenia is another country, so the festivals don't play Slovenia. So sometimes actually like the bigger acts that come to Ljubljana come in the summer because of the other festivals, and of course on Monday or Tuesday they have a free day, and they can come for a lower offer. It's not so many of them. And we would love to have like a nice festival that would put Slovenia also on such a festival map. But on the other side, there's a lot of really focused festival genre-wise. So we have a really important metal festival called Metal Days, a punk rock festival called Punk Rock Holiday. And these are doing really well, which is maybe more healthy in certain scenes. So.
Well, I think the situation... You talk about metal festivals or punk festivals or hardcore festivals, and electronic music festivals are the same. I think they always have good health, but when metal bands tour around Spain, for example, the shows run really good. I think it's more the indie or something like these festivals that have problems after this to do the artists to do tours around the country, for example. I don't know if it's the same there. You have, yeah, the specialized festivals works really good, I think, all around.
Yeah, I think in the Netherlands, or over in the Benelux even, you see that because of the problems that Bas is just described, you see a couple of these festivals, not only in metal but also in general, start to think more out, from their own artistic profile, and not necessarily anymore in the big names ideas, but they start to build like a total festival experience almost, which relies a little bit less on landing big headliners, but a bit more about the total experience, and that's going to be their main draw of the audience. Like the festival experience itself is the headliner of the festival, and that way, you don't rely that much on tours that are planned a year or a year and a half in advance, or you don't have to pay like top money for the big names. And I think,
but that's I think that's totally part of the solution to the problem, to have festivals focus more on a certain vibe and a certain style and an experience, and less of trying to score certain names. But it's still like a very small development compared to what's happening in the big festivals. But it's definitely a good answer. Like in the Netherlands, we have Le Guess Who festival, which is really a festival that breaks away from certain indie music developments, and they just have a very eclectic music program, from jazz to progressive to electronic to whatever. And it's people start to go to a festival because of the festival, not of the name. So that frees the system from focusing on the names. But it's a very small development. That's one example. But I think it would be a good development for the artists to have still a way to play festivals and not be dependent on playing the big festivals that demand exclusive early announcement.
I think they are growing up really good here in Spain too, the festivals that are focused in any special experience. So we go to the point that we have something like one festival in Galicia, and we will have a new one in Catalonia that they have something like a secret lineup, and you will discover it when you go there, and they are working fine. They are small ones. It's not like Primavera that they sell a lot of tickets before to have because all the people wait for big names in Primavera, but it's so different. Well, one of the points that I said before about bands is when I say that bands only wants to play in festivals, I mean that other problem in relationship with this is the price. When after all these festivals you want to do as a promoter a tour of a band in Spain, for example, if the bands, for example, play something like 1 year ago or 2 years ago in Primavera, and they have hundreds or thousands of people in the festival, they expect in the tour they will have more price. They could charge a lot of money because it will be a lot of people on the shows, and it's not like this. It's something like a fake idea. So, what about your point of view about this?
Yeah, I totally agree. Sometimes a festival pays maybe 15,000 euros for an exclusive show of an artist that, if he would come play a club in Madrid, would maybe draw 300 people. Yeah. But the manager, the American manager, can think, oh, I got so much money from the festival, I'm worth way more. And so it's also like what you say, it's a bit of a fake situation because of this focus on making everything exclusive and creating an experience that way. It kills the reality of touring, and it's a big difference. And I know from experience with a lot of bands that some bands done like an amazing festival show either at Primavera or another festival in Spain, and then they do a club tour, and it's like, oh, it's back to reality. You have to really work hard to get the crowd, even though at the festival you felt like you were king on the mountain, and then suddenly it's But I think that. In that sense, it's a different way of building an artist. If you ignore all the festivals and you would just play instead of one big festival show, you play 15 small shows all over Spain, yeah, you could build it in a different way, but it takes more time and
Yeah, I think it's really hard
it's
right
tricky.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of the problems you say, it's exclusivity. Yeah. Obviously, we have a lot of festivals that have this this thing on the contract. It's the same all around the world, I think, right now. So it's a big problem there or not. For example, we have not only international artists, we have a Spanish artist that if they play one festival, they cannot play for, I don't know, 6 months in the same city or in the same region or something like this. Or they could only play in one summer festival, for example. And I think it's really crazy because there could be people around the country. Yeah, it's the same there.
I think you see that all over Europe, maybe not in
Well,
Slovenia.
we'll see. We'll see now. We'll see now.
No. No, I'd say, well, on the other hand, when you're talking to young artists, you always say, don't play too much, don't overplay the city. So sometimes, not playing for 6 months in your hometown, it totally makes sense. But yes, I understand that this kind of exclusivity can draw bands away from clubs. Maybe not the exclusivity, I think more the fees.
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't know, Bas can tell you, but I'm pretty sure, like, on his roster there are bands, like he mentioned, he can get, I don't know, 10, 15,000 euros for a festival slot, and then making a band go back in the van and play for maybe 1,000, 2,000 euros, and sleep in, like, small hotels or backstagers or whatever. It's hard to get on this.
Yeah, but I think the local bands could accept this. But I think, as Bas says, the agents from America, the big booker agents, don't accept this. They want to have the maximum money that they could have, knowing that the band will not have all these people on the shows, I think. Something like this, no? Well, I think we must have something like at least 10 minutes if people could ask. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
sorry.
I want to turn back to the gentrification one more because I feel
yeah.
frustrated a little bit leaving it like this. Like I said, I don't have the answer, but I think part of the process is making sure that the local government understands if you only look at what brings you the quickest or then the most money, what has the biggest economic incentive for you, like a short-sightedly, you're going to basically you're getting rid of your city. It's like, then why do you keep doing anything anyway? And it's about trying to work on promoting the idea, this is what makes this place unique, this is what makes a city attractive to live in, this is how you get really the people you want, this is what makes a city unique, and it creates a character, and that's a value in itself. And it also has a big economic impact as well, and a social impact. And it's trying to put that into a message that also gets across to local government. It's not a solution, it's not easy, and of course, I think a lot of times you're going to fail, but I think that's part of the process you're going to have to take, and not only focus on the short-sighted, okay, this is right now in a really quick way, if we sell that property, we get a lot of money, and then that's gone. But yeah.
I actually have an example of maybe a part of a solution for this. In the city I used to live in, there was also a really big redevelopment project going on, and that might have cost a venue. But then there was this really big insurance company that was that has like maybe 1,000 people working for them, and they said that venue is one of the most important reasons why people move to my personnel is moving to this city. Please maintain the venue, and then you have another voice becoming an ambassador of your venue. It's not only yourself that's explaining the importance of the venue to the government, but also a big company that says it. And I think if you diversify the voices for and the ambassadorship for the cultural venues or areas, and not only say tell the story yourself, but let it come from other directions. That really strengthens the message towards the government.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely true. Building a local network also with unexpected allies, maybe like an insurance company, or it can be maybe the university if you have one, or whatever partners it may be. And I think that's also part of can really help make your case, hopefully. Yeah.
Well, about the relationship with politicians, for example, in Barcelona, something like the real relationship that we always have is when the politicians will have something like a cool image working with the venues or with the festivals, they are really cool and they try to be cool. When some years ago we have something like Sonido Barcelona, it was something like the sound of the city, and all the politicians wants to be involved with this. Oh yeah, the city is like this. When all this movement starts to go down, politicians go out and the venues returns to the same situation as before. They are the enemies again, so we have problems with and I think the small and medium venues from Barcelona that works really fine are the ones that don't have aid from the government. They are the ones that have contracts for something like with the owners of the building for 50 years or for 40 years. They could be there because they have a real contract. When they change, other places that change the contract and they must pay a lot more because gentrification, the places are fucked up totally. Yeah.
There's a number of venues in the Netherlands that came out of the squat scene in the 80s or in the 70s even, and they own the venue. But then still, if there's like developments going on around the venue and all of a sudden you have an apartment building in front of you, then still, you can own the venue, but if you cause noise complaints, that's also happening.
Well, the venue that have Primavera Sound, that is in Barcelona, right?
Actually, I have a really funny example. There's this really small but really cool metal bar in Tilburg, and they had this situation, and there was an empty parking lot in front on the other side of the venue, and they heard that there was a big developer going to build an apartment building over there, and they contacted the developer and they said like, hey, we're a live music venue. There's people here hanging outside as well, this and this. They explained the situation, and what the developer did, and I think that's one of the coolest things I ever heard, he said, okay, the apartment's in front of the building, directly opposite of you. I'm going to say in the description, when I'm going to sell it, these apartments are really suitable for metal fans.
Oh yeah.
And, so it was in the brochure of the building, and they were like, you have the coolest metal bar of the Netherlands right in front of you. So, and then I think somebody bought a place that was like into live music, and he never filed any complaints.
So if any of you are a real metalhead and want something like an apartment there, I think he could give you a contact. So try it. Yeah, I think it's time for questions. Because, well, no, I think we have something like 5 minutes or something like this. Un minuto. Oh, I'm sorry. I talked too much. I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Any question?
There's one.
Hello, I'm Derek. I run a UK-wide touring network called Off Access. Sorry, I've also got a bit of a cold, so. How easy is it for UK artists to tour in each of the panel's respective countries? So, Spain and North Spain, like Seville, Netherlands, and I guess Catherine, you'll potentially know a bit wider. But yeah, is it quite easy for UK artists to tour across Europe, like mainland Europe?
Very easy, I think. Yeah, I think the UK artists have definitely probably one of the most easy accesses to the rest of Europe compared to bands from other countries, because I think mainly because of the language and the music scene behind it. What I can see is that if a band develops strongly in England, it definitely flows over to the rest of Europe. And if like a Dutch band plays amazing and gets great reviews and press in the Netherlands, it will do nothing outside of the Netherlands usually. So I think, yeah, the UK bands have definitely an advantage touring the rest of Europe, but I can speak for
Slovenia, but
Yeah, I think it's exactly what you said, like really on point, but it really depends on the band. Like if it's an unknown band, it's a struggle like for any other.
well, we have a very special situation in Barcelona because we have Razzmatazz, that is something like a big venue there. And usually you could see something like the advertising for the weekend shows. And a lot of times you see something like a big name that nobody knows until that moment. And I think 70% of the times are bands from UK because they work a lot with UK and they start, I don't know, in the past we have, I don't know, the Klaxons or all these bands from something like some years ago that they start to play there before any other show in Spain. They play at Razzmatazz because they know that there's a lot of people from UK that go there to have party on the weekends. So yeah, and the difficult thing is to see a Spanish band with these big capital letters on the advertising. And yeah, this is a problem. It's more difficult sometimes to play for Spanish bands in that situation than for UK. I think for UK bands it's really easy. Spain too. Razzmatazz in Barcelona. Yeah. Something like this. Or for example, we have this really funny situation. I think when bands from UK play in Barcelona, for example, these very unknown bands, something like this, unknown, we could say this. The audience could be some British people, but the rest of the people, it's from Spain. Well, we have something like a lot of bands playing in something like a circuit in UK, in Liverpool, in London, in something like a circuit called Rock con Subtítulos, that are bands from Spain playing there. And I was there with all the people, well, some people of the magazine, and 98% were Spanish people, and the other 200% were Italians. So we could go to see British bands from UK, because we have something like a big trust in them. But I think when our bands go outside, not all of people have trust in Spanish bands. Yeah? Well, I don't know. We have one artist here in the audience that is from here, and he plays all around the world, and he have more something like more attention outside than here, because here usually if you are not a very successful Spanish bands, we don't trust a lot in our bands. Yeah, it's a bad thing, but it's like this, I think. I speak so much all the time. Well, I must talk for two people because David is not here, so any other question? ¿Quieres hacer tu comentario? Ya que yeah, you could do something like a commentary because you are an artist from here that he plays all around the world, not for big audiences, but we have more. Yeah.
Hi, hello everyone. Yeah, I'm actually from Seville, and I've been raised here and I've been playing music for over 20 years. I run a venue in the city. We have Sala X. I'm head of production there. I have a record label with 4 or 5 recording, performing artists at the moment. And I think it's not much as being Spanish as being able to convey correct message with your music. I mean, I don't really believe that being Spanish matters very much if your music is global. You know, of course, if you speak English, it's an advantage. If you don't, I don't know what you're doing trying to play in England if you're not able to do an interview in English. But I don't know, I think it's more about, you know, being able to see the scene as a whole rather than just, I'm Spanish, so I'm supposed to be playing in Spain, you know. It's not really like that. I mean, you're really close to Slovenia. How long does it take to come in a flight, you know, 2 hours and a half? It takes more to drive to the seaside, depending on where you live in Spain, you know. I don't know. I think there's a lot of things have been said that are okay, but there's a lot of things to be said as well. But you know, it's cool. I think it's not such a drama. It's just about believing what you do, believing what you're playing, and just trying to forget a bit about. I mean, you're not Bon Iver. You're not gonna get any slot in any festival because you don't sell the tickets to be there. So just assume your position and start building your career from the top, from the bottom. You know, we've played. I don't know, in the last 5 years, we've done around 250 shows all over the world. We've played from audiences of 3 people to audiences of 25,000 in China. You know, it's just about it's just about doing what you like and not trying to be Bon Iver before you are anything else. You know, and just I don't know, just wanted to say that it's not really important where you're from or what you do. It's just about the music you play and I don't even know which language is Sigur Rós singing in the first record. It's not definitely Icelandic. And you don't care, I don't know, I don't know. It's just, I don't care where people are from if I like the music. I don't care where they live if I like what they do. It's just if I'm able to communicate with them, if I'm able to speak with them and to understand each other musically, that's okay. And we book in the venue so many shows of unknown bands that work so well, you know. Just music, you know, just working it.
Thanks a lot. I think we are finished. There's not any last question or something? Okay. Well, if you want to say anything before I start to talk more, so if you want to say something like a conclusion or something.
Nice closing words.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, that's okay. Thanks a lot for all of them to be in this roundtable. I really appreciate that they could understand my questions, and thanks a lot to be here. I think there's a lot of people listening, so I think their messages are important to listen and interesting. So thanks a lot for your time and interest. Okay, thanks.